Hi everyone, it's Ash here. Just jumping on to say that I hope you all had a stress-free, relaxing and hopefully easy and breezy holiday period. I know this time can be very hard for everyone, so I hope you all got through it. And I want to wish everyone a very happy new year. And I want to also thank everyone for the amazing support that we've had over 2024. It's been a huge year, and we're very thankful for all of our listeners, all of the downloads, all of the recommendations, follows on the Instagram, all of that kind of stuff. It's been amazing to get the response that we have, and we're really, really, really thankful for all of the people listening and who share our content. It's very heartwarming to know that we, I don't know, sometimes make a difference, but also just to know that the work that we're doing is resonating with people. So we're very thankful for every single person. This will be the last episode for 2024. I know, it still counts. We've got a few days left. But I thought this episode would be very fitting given the amount of new year, new me bullshit that's about to enter the marketing sphere. So brace yourselves. I know it's going to be a tough ride, but just mute, report, and hide everything that you see if it's triggering for you. But yes, I wanted this episode to be a nice deep dive into something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I think it will be which I think will resonate with a lot of people with this time of year. So I hope that you enjoy, because it was a really, really great chat. We're looking forward to 2025. It's already shaping up to be a big year for us, not just because Miss Callie is going to be back. I'm so excited to have her back. We have a bunch of episodes already pre-recorded, so I can't wait for you to hear them. It's going to be great to have her back, and I cannot wait to bring you more content that I hope that you will all love and find really helpful. Once again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for listening, and without any more of my waffling on, enjoy the episode. My name's Ash, and welcome to Paved with Gold, the eating disorder recovery podcast. I want to acknowledge the traditional landowners on which I am recording, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I am very excited for this episode, mainly because I get to rage about diet culture for the next hour or so with someone who I know will absolutely match my rage. Today, we will be talking about Noom, and you might be seeing the title and thinking, well, what does this have to do with eating disorders? Well, we'll get there. Or why are you talking about a dieting app on an eating disorder podcast? Well, we'll get into that all in length. And I was lucky, well, not lucky, to stumble across how Noom is allegedly, all in quotation marks because we don't want to get sued, using anti-diet messaging to lure people in who have eating disorders over to their non-diet app, in air quotes. And if that makes you angry, welcome to the club. And I'm very lucky to be talking to a person who helped start this club. Today's guest is the host of the All Fired Up podcast, the founder of Untrapped, which is an anti-diet academy and blog and all things anti-diet. She's a clinical psychologist and is the author of Mindful Moments, as well as the Non-Diet Guidebook for Psychologists and Counselors, which she co-authored alongside acclaimed Health at Every Size researcher Fiona Willer. She's also a speaker and an advocate for weight-inclusive healthcare. We love her already. Welcome to the podcast, Louise Adams. Hi.
Hi, Ash. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited for this chat. It's we were just talking off air about how we're already fired up and how it's going to be a wild couple of years, but I think we just keep fighting the good fight and all challenging our rage in the right places. So yes, very much looking forward to this. So blanket trigger warning, obviously, before we start. There will be talk about dieting, obviously, some talk of calories, maybe restriction, general weight loss stuff, because obviously we're talking about a weight loss app. Yes, guys, Noom is a diet. Let's just spoil that one right now. There'll be, Novo Nordisk and weight loss injections will probably make a cameo. So if this is going to be way too triggering for you, or you're just not in the space to listen to this, we do not blame you. So please sit this one out, and we'll see you in the next one. Please use your discretion. We want you guys to be safe. But if you're here to listen to us take a gigantic dunk on Noom and criticize what we believe, in our opinion, allegedly, is their harmful messaging tactics and weaponizing of recovery spaces, then strap in, because it's about to be a wild ride.
It certainly is.
Yes. So, Louise, let's start out by talking a little bit about you, because I am lucky to be quite familiar with your work. But to anyone who is not as privileged as I am, what's your sort of origin story, and how did you arrive in this anti-diet space?
Oh gosh, this sort of conversation makes me feel elderly, but I've been a clinical psychologist for like a quarter of a century now. And when I went into private practice, which was early noughties, I noticed that literally everyone I was seeing had, a disordered eating, if not a full-blown eating disorder. Everyone wanted to lose weight. Most people hated their bodies. And
I mean, the noughties were so helpful in terms of promoting positive body image for everybody, right?
Well, look, I went to university during the heroin chic 1990s, and the noughties were, let's face it, not much better. So that was like the atmos that was surrounding us. So it's not surprising that everyone felt that way. And I'm a psychologist. I knew sort of, how to treat an eating disorder. I didn't know how to help people, quote unquote, lose weight safely. And I also really wanted to make sure that whatever I was recommending didn't actually cause eating disorders. And that's literally the origin story. So I decided in my little way to do some research on, what kind of weight loss techniques work, are effective, and, safe. And after a massive literature review deep dive that lasted way too long, I discovered the truth about dieting, which is that they all don't work. Everything kind of works in the short term, but literally almost nothing works in the long term. And this has been known in 70 plus years of diet and weight loss research. It's just the data is in. It's as strong as what we have in terms of the evidence for climate change. So my next question was, why are we still recommending this? And that's sort of led me into the discovery of people like Dr. Rick Korsman, who wrote a really good book on the kind of anti-diet stuff, and the discovery of Haze and Health at Every Size, and questioning diet culture and pushing back against it all, and really seeing so clearly the connection between living in diet culture and just the astronomical rate of disordered eating and eating disorders that we have. So it's sort of gone from I'll just do a lit review back in the noughties to becoming like a full-blown advocacy, a very important part of my career.
Yeah, it's actually quite a similar sort of origin story to Reagan Chastain, I believe, who I know you've spoken to a few times. We love Reagan. If you're not familiar, Reagan is an incredible voice in the anti-diet space. I highly recommend subscribing to their newsletter on Substack, and just seeking out their podcast as well. But yeah, I think they were trying to look at how the best way to lose weight. And so they figured, okay, I'm just going to read all the literature and find out that, there was no way for long-term weight loss. So yeah, I think that definition of madness, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is kind of the ethos for the diet industry and the wellness industry, as it's now rebranded, because it's just trying the same things and making money off it because they like to prey on people's insecurities.
Well, yeah, it's a really good business model, because something that works in the short term and then requires more products is the absolute aim of the weight loss industry. So this is, my innocence back then, and I think Reagan's was, that if we know it doesn't work, why are people keeping on recommending it? Maybe if we just raise the profile and help people to understand that this doesn't work, maybe we can all pivot to a weight inclusive healthcare system and sort of destroy the weight loss industry. But as we've seen, things have kind of gone from bad to worse after a kind of what I think is like a brief kind of period during which body positivity was really rising. And then boom, here comes Novo Nordisk and the alleged world's first effective weight loss drug. And we're in a very interesting zeitgeist right now, but I'm still very hopeful that we are going to topple the weight loss industry and reclaim weight inclusivity and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it is a fight.
I hope so too, honestly, because I think once it is kind of freeing in a way once you kind of know that it doesn't work. And of course, I'm talking in my absolute straight privilege here. I'm fully aware of that. But knowing that I can now look at something really objectively and being like, that's bullshit, or you're lying, or this totally doesn't work. You can kind of really dismantle a lot of the messaging that we've all kind of, I think, been fed for the last few decades, which is just your body is able to be changed long term by just doing these simple things, as everyone in Instagram comments always likes to mention. It's calories in, calories out, guys. It's like, oh God, it's so much more than that. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
But I agree. I think it's completely empowering to understand weight science and to understand that if you're quote unquote failing on a diet or if weight regain is happening, that is absolutely nothing you're doing wrong. That's our bodies defending themselves against perceived starvation. It's a victory. If our bodies could talk, they'd be like, yay, I'm helping us to not die and I'm helping us to get that, wonderful weight stability back. Nothing is wrong with regaining weight after a weight loss diet, but the weight loss industry really wants to kind of reframe this as I'm hearing now, a chronic relapsing disease as opposed to a really bad product that should be stopped.
I think if you remove the weight loss context out of this, if you had something that didn't work over and over, like say you had, I don't know, a microwave. I'm just saying that because it's literally in front of me. You have a microwave and you put your food in and it starts maybe in the first couple of goes, it reheats your food. And then after that, it just doesn't work anymore. You'd throw that microwave out. But I think with weight loss and dieting and the wellness culture in general, it always puts the failure back on you. No, you're the problem. You're the one who doesn't have the willpower because you couldn't stick to this, even though no one can. And all the failure is then on the person, the consumer, rather than the actual problem, which is, the diet itself. I'm amazed that look, as a marketing person, it is
perfect.
It's very smart. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they've managed to pull the wool over all of our eyes for so long.
Yes. Well, I mean, there is powerful marketing machines like beyond our understanding. This is, and it's everywhere. It's not just in the weight loss companies or advertising industry. It's also in the medical science, or in air quotes, medical science and research. Everything is geared towards keeping this idea going, that if we just try hard enough, everyone can be skinnier.
Yeah. It's just willpower, guys. Just willpower. Anyway, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But so I wanted to talk about Noom today because unlike a lot of previous dieting apps, they've kind of come in with a slightly different strategy. They've tried to be like, oh, we use clinical psychology and CBT, and I'm looking at this and I'm kind of annoyed that they're giving psychology a bad name.
Me too.
And kind of just using that as like, oh no, guys, it's all in your head. Again, attacking this. We know diets don't work, so this isn't a diet, and we're focusing on the way that we're trying to change your brain, even though it is just the same old shit over and over again. So, and I know that you've been a very outspoken person on this, and which is I love. So for those who don't know, I envy you, but also
has anyone not been stalked by me?
I know, right? You've probably seen their ads being fed to you constantly. I'm not going to go into it because that's the question I'm about to ask you. So yes, for those who don't know, what is Noom and how does it work?
I think of Noom as spam. that that you cannot get rid of. But I first started hearing about Noom a few years ago. Kind of, I reckon, in COVID, it started to kind of rise and spread like bacteria, really. It was everywhere.
Like a virus?
Yes, it's seriously like this airborne, like social media driven virus. It's very much in, Instagram, Facebook feeds. I started hearing in eating disorder Facebook groups that I was in from other eating disorder health professionals. What's this Noom? Is it really something that we can help our eating disorder patients safely lose weight without worsening or creating an eating disorder? And that, of course, sent my bullshit detector like absolutely off. And then I found myself doing this. It was from quite a big deep dive into what on earth is, who are they? What is Noom? What is going on? And it's what is Noom? They will tell you that they are a digital health platform using the cutting edge of psychological science to help people meaningfully lose weight and keep it off forever. Using just tricks of psychology and CBT and self-compassion and mindfulness. And there's, like, for me, I've written a book about self-compassion. I practice cognitive behavior therapy. I'm a clinical psychologist. These people are in my wheelhouse using these terms. And worst of all, co-opting, mindfulness spaces and even body positive kind of language. So I saw it as, every time I think the diet culture kind of weight loss industry can't sink any lower, then there comes a bottom feeder. And I literally think Noom is really just the hoover of the absolute worst of the worst in terms of the bait and switch marketing techniques, because whatever they're saying, this is a diet, this is a restrictive diet, it uses a traffic light system, it uses calorie restriction, but the real psychology of Noom is actually their marketing tactics in helping people to get sucked into their sales funnel. It's a very good marketing machine.
Yeah. And it's quite expensive too, isn't it? Isn't it like way more expensive than a lot of the other ones? I think the most recent figure I saw, it was like $60 a month.
Yes. It's extremely expensive, extremely ineffective, but very good at getting your money. So, and very good at getting investment. So it was started, again, in the noughties with two tech bros from New York. These people are
they just figured it out. They had the secret all along, guys.
Well, who would believe that slim, white, actually one's white, I think the other guy is Korean, but slim men who are tech bros can actually save us from being larger bodied. This is just what we need, more men telling us what we should look like. So they started an app. It was called Calorific. It was basically a calorie counting app. They snaffled heaps of investment money. So they're very good at getting capital investment. And then they squandered it and nothing kind of happened for many years until they stumbled upon this marketing idea. Around, I think, 2015 or so is when they really started to kind of flood social media using co-opted language. And this really did take off because the marketing is fantastic, and so is the investment capital. I'm talking half $1 billion in investment money went into this, and that's
crazy money.
Advertising spend of $200 million US in 1 year. This is why everywhere we look there's Noom.
Yeah. And they pitch themselves like, oh, we're not a diet, even though it absolutely is. And I wanted to touch on what you said. They use like that traffic light system, which is obviously categorizing foods into red, yellow, and green. Green, I assume, is you can have as much as you want. Yellow is sometimes, and red is just like, oh, you can't eat these. It's like, so it's the basic just demonization of certain foods. And
revolutionary, right?
I know. So, yeah, we've never seen that before.
Never.
And I think it was quite similar to the strategy that Weight Watchers, now rebranded as WW, did with their Curbo app, which is what...
They also used that traffic light system.
Exactly. And that one was for kids. Wasn't that great? Yeah, and you went undercover, kind of. You downloaded it, didn't you?
I did. I went through their 66-step sales funnel, giving them almost all of my information, including the dilation of my cervix during childbirth. It was so much personal information. And ended up, like, honestly, it actually took me a little bit of time to extract myself from Noom, which is really, this is why they're making money, because what they are doing, it's called a roach motel. You know how cockroaches, like, when they crawl onto the little trap and then their little feet get stuck and they can't get out? That's Noom, the online version of that. So customers come in and we get our feet stuck because there's no clear way of cancelling. So this led to a class action lawsuit against them, and they had to pay out $60 million. It's the world's biggest class action lawsuit against a weight loss firm. So this is the caliber of healthcare that you're looking at.
Yeah. But of course, I'm sure they were more than happy to pay that out, given how much they had already made, regardless.
It hasn't stopped them. I mean, clearly they've now gone, they've gotten into bed with the weight loss drugs. But yeah, this is a capitalist dream, this company. But it's definitely a diet. It's uses what they call health coaches, which are kind of people who are sort of sweatshopped into into talking to people. There was a lot of scandal about them.
Are they actually people or are they bots?
That's right. So there was a big scandal about them being bots. Most of them were bots, but there were actual people as well. People who are really not given great working conditions and not very well paid. I think in the UK there was another lawsuit because of that kind of problem with overworking people and not helping people when clients were clearly developing disordered eating and eating disorders. So it's such a dark story.
I was going to say, like, if the predatory sales tactics and the bait and switching of, it's a diet, but actually it's not a diet, but actually it is, didn't get you. I mean, labor violations are just another reason to dunk on this company. Oh God. And I know that they probably do ask you a million questions, like you said, and like all the screenings. Do they screen for eating disorders? Because I believe that they said that they do, and then
they do, but they screen. It doesn't actually matter what you say. The result will end up being you need to buy their product.
Obviously.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So there's I think I was on another podcast and a colleague was telling me that they entered data as a person with a restrictive eating disorder, and there was no protection. It was offered to them. So this again, it's the appearance versus the reality. This is a cutthroat business that wants to kind of suck out as much money from you as possible for as long as possible, and serving their bottom line. It's not about human health. Yeah.
And I think, and I'm, again, correct me if I'm wrong, they pretty much put you on they give you a very, very restrictive calorie goal, kind of no matter what answers you give, correct?
Yes, that's right. So there was a very famous study in the end of World War II called the Minnesota semi-starvation experiment, which studied...
we did a 2-part deep dive on that, so feel free to go and listen to that.
Feel free. It's a fascinating look at what happens to human bodies in situations of semi-starvation, and the calorie cap for Noom's diet is less than that.
Yeah.
And there's been pushback against that, and they've kind of come back and said, "Oh, we've tweaked it, and we're offering people slightly higher calorie intakes, but it's still a starvation-based diet. It's not good for us. It's the benchmark for the diet industry needs to be helping people to reduce weight in a safe way, physiologically and psychologically, and we do not have that." Because the harsh biological fact is bodies defend against being starved. Our bodies don't like this. This is a starvation diet wrapped up in glitter and sold as, the solution to psychological and physical health, but it's a giant pile of bullshit.
Yeah. No notes. Yeah, I remember because I've been aware of Noom for a very long time. But one thing, the one time where it really sort of crept into the closest it's ever gotten to me was I was actually at work and I was in an office space and it was actually two guys talking behind me and they're saying, oh yeah, I'm fairly okay tuning out diet talk, or I'll literally just get up and leave. And it was one guy behind me and he was like, yeah, I'm trying to on a bit of a health kick at the moment. I'm just like, oh, we all know what that means. It's like, yeah, I've been using Noom to kind of like track everything. And then another guy in the office piped up. It's like, oh my God, I love Noom. It's so good. And it's so easy to follow and it's so easy to track everything. And I didn't hear the rest of that conversation because I didn't care. And I just picked up my laptop and I believe I said to the person sitting next to me, I'm like, I can't deal with this diet shit right now. And I walked out and left that room because that's a hard boundary. But it's just this perception that it is so different and it's so revolutionary. And I think also, and again, this is just me speaking anecdotally, the fact that it was men who were dabbling in it as well, rather than something like Weight Watchers, which has been so heavily branded and geared towards women. And yeah, I think Noom is kind of doing stuff differently and where they're trying to target everybody. It's like, oh no, it's all about healthy mindset. And
it's definitely gendered. We know diet culture is very much targeted, especially the weight loss industry is very marketed towards women. So is the weight loss research. But men love a good tech gadget. And Noom have gamified weight loss and made it sexy for men.
Yeah. And it's all about like, oh, now biohacking and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. So lots of sparkly gadgets and stuff like that. So it can be a lot of fun to get onto a cultural phenomenon and be part of a club. As many people would relate to, restricting feels good in small doses, because you feel like you're on the ticket to Thin Town and you're in control and all of that. Like there's a honeymoon period that's associated with restriction and trying to lose weight in our culture. And that's a real experience, but it's like a roller coaster, because then we sort of start climbing up the other side when even these dudes will get tired of like the hacks and really the restriction and like, really more broccoli and all. It gets hard. Our hunger signals kick in. We get hungrier. We get more preoccupied with food. Things start feeling not safe. It's not a safe place for a lot of people. Yeah. And, the people who are talking loudly in the lunchroom at the workplace are not the ones who are currently in trouble. But I want people to remember that that's just like this small snapshot of the entire process. Yeah. And 70 years of science shows us that brief moment is followed by a world of pain for the majority of dieters. And the best thing we can do if we want to take care of our mental health and physical health is to stop dieting and stop giving tech bros more money. And practice things that can genuinely empower us.
Yeah, and genuinely improve our health and well-being. And I mean, for me, my eating disorder started by restricting and tracking and counting calories and those kind of things. And I just went on a massive slippery slope. And then I felt like I couldn't trust my body to eat, quote unquote, normally again. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this. But then the other part, which I think as many people, I'm sure in recovery or quasi-recovery or in the process of recovery, or even recovery maintenance as well, recovered, whatever we want to call it, I think that a lot of those people can relate to. And I've also, related to this. When you're in that process and you're healing from your eating disorder, there can still be that desire to lose weight. That can, especially if your recovered recovery body looks very different to your eating disorder body. and that it could be no matter what size that is, you can still feel like that desire to diet, that desire to lose weight. And one of the things that makes me so mad is that, like you were saying, Noom has kind of carved out a nice little spot in that space and tapping into that fear of saying, no, we can help you lose weight in a healthy way that doesn't hurt your eating disorder recovery. And people still, I still think no one should ever be prescribing weight loss in general. But it's just like, it really taps into it like a real fear in a lot of people who are going through recovery. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that I can never go on a diet again. And I've made peace with that because it's just not a safe thing for anyone to do, but for me especially. And it can be a really, really hard thing for a lot of people to come to terms with. And that's why I'm really pissed off at them.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's exactly that message of there is a safe way to lose weight. And it's even safe if you've got disordered eating and eating disorders, because we are coaches and we are psychologists and we understand this. And this is not the case. The psychologist who is involved with Noom is an obesity researcher who does, and we know that in the field there are researchers that what I call splinter us, which is sit on a fence and say there is a safe way in which we can kind of simultaneously cure an eating disorder and get people thinner. Which these people have a special case of cognitive dissonance because they fall into these kind of research traps where they don't follow people for long enough to and completely ignore or don't follow up on potential harms from trying to pursue weight loss. I mean, for me, I'm very much of a simple thinker. In terms of the simple way to sort of settle the dissonance of I want to lose weight, but I don't want to have an eating disorder, is to let go of the I want to lose weight thing, which is really difficult in diet culture. Really
And we
difficult.
want to recognize as well that if you're feeling that is really normal as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's not great that I hate that you're feeling that way. And it is a really tough thing to have to go through and to come to terms with. And there isn't an easy answer to that, unfortunately. So yeah, we just wanted to acknowledge that.
Absolutely acknowledge the difficulty of it, but we also have to acknowledge the reality of biology and how bodies work. And what I love about, weight inclusive research and thinking is that just this glorious idea that we all come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Yeah. That, there's larger people and smaller people and tiny people and very big people, and everyone belongs, and all of those people deserve excellent health care. And eating disorders come from this idea of like narrowing the broad range of human diversity to say there's only one kind of body type that's happy, healthy, deserving. That's the real shittiness that we are trying to push back at. So it is not easy to do. But it's probably the best thing you can start considering as an alternative. There's not just one way to be okay in your own body. Weight loss is very heavily marketed to us as like the key to life, the universe, and everything. But for most people, like it promises a dream and delivers a nightmare.
Yeah, and I think there's also part of that desire to want to change a body that you've now recovered into as well, and to why a lot of that desire to lose weight is still there is because a lot of people who have eating disorders are in large bodies and they experience weight stigma, and you're constantly getting these messages of that your body is wrong and you need to fix that. And then you hear other people in in real body positivity, not just slim white women who have no fat on their bodies, telling you that to love yourself. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about real body positivity and body liberation. And then you have these other spaces which are basically all singing from the song sheet that we are, which is, you won't find true body satisfaction through a diet. And there's that tug of war between the two of like, this is my lived experience. I'm living this every day. And I've this desire, and my brain is telling me I need to change, versus something that I think is a lot harder, and living in a society in the body you have and feeling at peace with yourself while also, facing.
If you are copying shit because of the size of that body, if you're genuinely experiencing weight stigma, that sucks. It's so much harder to recover from an eating disorder into a body that is larger than what society deems to be acceptable.
Yeah, 100%.
And the problem there is not the body. The problem there is the society.
Mic drop. That's it. Yeah. Thank you for taking what I was trying to say in a much easier, snappier way of saying it.
Well, it's kind of like saying that the way to cure sexism is to make everyone male, This is not the problem.
Yes. 100%. That is a great way of putting it, actually. I think if for people who are in that stage right now, who are listening to everything that we're saying and be like, yeah, that's me. How exactly does Noom prey on this space? Like, what are some of the messages that they're using so people can actually, I think a lot of times I do feel that having the knowledge of that can be powerful to know what to look out for. It's like, oh, okay, so that's what you're saying. That's what I need. That's what you're trying. I can see what you're trying to do. So what are some of the ways that Noom tries to co-opt this eating disorder recovery, anti-diet, these kind of messaging?
Yeah, well, they're kind of co-opting health big time. So, sending us these messages that eating in their way is the key to good health, quote unquote. What I'm seeing right now, which is different to a couple of years ago when I wrote my rants and about Noom, is what I think they're positioning themselves now with Novo Nordisk's new weight loss drugs. Because have you noticed that the entire weight loss industry is now in bed with Novo Nordisk, because these weight loss drugs are kind of proving in a way that dieting, like using willpower and using plans and traffic light systems and low carbon fasting and all that shit, doesn't work in the long term.
They're kind of really telling on themselves here.
They are.
They're like, by the way, we've suckered you in for so long and we've taken all of your money. Thanks for that. By the way, this probably doesn't really work. But don't worry, we've got something else for you that you can spend money on over here, which also you have to be on for the rest of your freaking life if you want to actually.
But this is what it is, right? So the Novo Nordisk's weight loss drugs work, by complex pathways, but interfering essentially with our digestive system, and do produce, on average, if you're talking about the Wegovy kind of stuff, 10, 15, 20% weight loss over short periods of time. That is not because you're being injected with good health. You're being injected with something that's stopping you from being able to eat very much. When you go off it, people regain the weight back. So Noom are now positioning themselves as like, we can come in and protect you from the kind of inevitability of weight regain. And which is just, the term ambulance chasers, like, people are just like, look, there's this product and I'm just going to kind of get on the coattails of that product and try and associate myself with that product and make myself relevant, even though I am, really, when you look at it, you're becoming increasingly irrelevant in the kind of what they call the age of Ozempic or whatever.
Yeah. And not just, if we all know, I think at this point, anyone who's kind of done any sort of research into or any sort of reading into semaglutide, however you pronounce it, which is Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, all of them, all the weight loss injections. I think it's not just the fact that you do eventually, once you stop taking it, you then regain the weight at an increasingly rapid rate. Also, the side effects of being on those drugs sounds insane, horrific, life-threatening. They are so dangerous. Again, if you listen to anything by Reagan Chastain, there's she's done a massive deep dive, and also a bunch of your podcasts as well, where you do a massive deep dive into these drugs and how they work.
She's come on, and we've done multiple. Oh God, way too long on stuff like that.
I think I've listened to all of them like multiple times because I feel that again, kind of what we were saying, I feel empowered and I feel powerful knowing all of this knowledge of how horrific they are, so that anytime someone brings them up in conversation with me, I'm like, you don't actually know what they're really doing. They're even worse than you think they are. And I go on massive, like I'm a worse person to be around when those kind of topics come up.
Well, we need consent. We need critical thinking. And we live in the age of marketing, massive marketing budgets. Noom's, $200 million in 1 year pales into the enormous influence that drug companies are having right now on the narrative of size and weight and what we need to be, quote unquote, doing about this problem, alleged problem.
Yeah, and classifying the O word, obesity,
and co-opting
as a disease.
Yeah, well, yeah, pressing. There's nothing more profitable than creating a disease. We saw it with Fen. Yes. There's so much backstory here in terms of how we know the things that we think we know about the relationship between our size and our health. But critical thinking is where it's at. Don't believe what we're being told. Novo Nordisk are really co-opting weight stigma and the idea of weight stigma, which, weight stigma is the pathologizing of anyone with a BMI above 25.
Yeah.
But they're rebranding weight stigma to mean people not being able to get weight loss drugs.
Yeah. Their version of combating weight stigma is by reducing the number of fat people that exist.
Yes.
That's not combating weight stigma.
Well, that's
it. That is weight stigma.
We're back to, reducing sexism by making everyone male. Yeah.
It's so fucked up.
It is messed up. But it's simple. If we can look at the big picture, diet culture, then the weight loss industry, it does survive by clinging to these problematic messages. And if you can kind of get your bullshit detection kit at hand, then when you read a Noom ad that says, oh, use self-compassion and then you'll be 15 kilos lighter, you can say, oh, my diet culture bullshit machine has just pinged. There's a kind of a rebrand. Like there's some bullshit that's wrapped in glitter. They're trying to make me feel like I'm doing a good thing, taking care of myself by buying their expensive diet that I can't unsubscribe from. So seeing it for what it is and hearing the bullshit, hearing the message behind the message it's empowering.
And I think just to sort of, if I may ask, what are some other things that are in your bullshit detector kit? Like what are some other things to look out for? Like one for me is always when someone pulls out a study of like, oh, well, it shows that this study shows that it works. It's like, okay, well, who funded the study?
Perfect. Yes. Who's written the study?
What are some other things?
Yeah, so who's written the study this is all about understanding how modern weight science works. Who funded the study? How long did the study go for? Because weight loss research is famous for like doing Noom, for example, have a kind of statistic up that like something like there's a 7.5% weight loss, right? But that study is based on a 16-week research program which they funded, which was done in Korea, and which ignored like a massive dropout rate of people who simply didn't come back. So really,
of course,
who
no flaws in this study whatsoever.
I always also, I'm such a nerd, but when you read a research study, there's an abstract which is like a little summary of what happened, what they did, and what the conclusions are.
And it's always so much more digestible than reading the whole paper.
It's much easier. It's like a snack, but it's bullshit. You have to actually, I can't count the number of times where you read the abstract and it's like, oh, look, everyone did this like traffic light program and everyone loved it and everyone lost lots of weight and nothing bad happened, the end. And then you read through the actual kind of results and it's like, oh, 97% of people dropped out. They didn't actually measure harm, so there hasn't been, and the study went for 2 weeks. So the difference.
It's kind of like pulling a book off the shelf, reading the blurb, and at the back of like the summary, like all the pull quotes of all of the people that they've basically paid and cherry picked the quotes of their reviews for, and then being like, oh, and this is what the whole book's about. It's
Yep.
like, no, you have to read the book to know what it's about.
That's right. Or just going off someone's Tinder profile and then meeting them.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, you're whenever you read a media article reporting on outstanding health results, at the moment we're hearing, especially these weight loss drugs are great for reducing heart attacks, great for livers, great for Alzheimer's. I even read one that it's like
Really?
it's stopping aging. So,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
again, like the media sound bites are often press releases from the company itself. They're heavily marketed, and there's an agenda. You have to have your tinfoil full conspiracy hat kind of outfit on whenever you're about to digest some information from the weight loss industry, because there's a big shovel, and I want you to picture it like a big mound of bullshit on it, and they're trying to shovel it down your throat, and you're like, hang on a second. Because until I read a study which is like, okay, this is how weight science really does work. This is how a human body will no longer protest becoming smaller and no longer see that as a threat to, survival. And we are absolutely convinced of its safety profile because we've done multiple, there's a good theory and there's a good set of studies behind it, and there's no kind of profit motive behind it. I keep waiting for that.
Yeah.
I am not seeing it. I am becoming more and more convinced that this industry is not genuinely curious about weight science, or definitely not interested in social justice and things like that, or even human health. They're interested in making lots and lots of money.
Yeah. If there was a long-term, safe, totally affordable way to lose weight and keep it off, everyone would know about it, and there would be billions to be made off it. And there would be no fat people.
That's the problem.
That's it.
But
right?
sometimes that's a question I ask people. I don't want to live in a world like that.
No, neither.
I really don't. I think that would be a horrible use of human knowledge, time, and energy. I genuinely appreciate diversity. Mm-hmm. And if we are all going to look the same, we're in really, really big trouble from an evolutionary perspective, at least, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of seeing it a little bit, not to, go on a tangent on like plastic surgery or fillers or things like that. But the amount of people now that kind of all look the same, they kind of all have the Kardashian face. I'm just like, you kind of go back and watch movies from like the 70s or the 80s, or you see old photos of, these people, like, granted they're still celebrities, but all of their faces look natural. And I'm just really missing that. Like, and now I'm questioning everything I'm seeing, and I'm assuming every single every single photo I look at is basically edited to all hell. Everyone's had filler, everyone's had Botox, all of that kind of stuff. And you really do miss what real faces look like. I feel like my sense of beauty is now totally warped. And sometimes I look in my reflection and be like, oh, I wonder if I needed this and this there. I'm like, and then I also read about how filler totally migrates around your face and how Botox actually causes premature aging and all that shit. And I'm just like, okay, no, I don't need anything.
But you see, we're being told that we need stuff.
Yeah.
That's capitalism, isn't it? That's
absolutely,
being made to feel like we're not quite okay and we just need this and this and this. This is how, things work in this kind of society. So, and I'm not saying, you have to push back against every single aspect of capitalism. I mean, if you choose to do so, good on you. That's terrific too. But it's learning to make sure that you live with a beautiful little protective aura around you, because there's so much bullshit out there, and we have to protect our wonderful bodies against all of this bullshit. And at the end of the day, it's pretty simple when it comes to what makes us thrive and flourish. We need to eat enough, we need to kind of have like a lot of variety if we are lucky, and enjoy a relaxed relationship with food, and our bodies and like life itself.
Yeah. Because there's so much more to it than the shape or size you are.
Yeah. No app is going to help you connect to your body. If we could think about it in a 2024 way, our bodies are an app. So, let's let's get connected to what's actually happening,
I love that analogy. It's a really good point. Our body is the app, and sometimes you just need to appreciate how it functions.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go in there and work on the back end and tinker with it, because something's going to go wrong.
No tech bro is going to know your body better than yours.
Absolutely. One of the questions I definitely want to ask you is, if they have been sucked into the Noom vortex, how can they get out of it? What are some sort of really practical steps that people can use to break down this thinking? Because I think, especially when you're in it, right? Mm-hmm. And you're having these moments where you've experienced some weight stigma and you're trying to counteract that. But what are some sort of practical tips that people can take themselves out of the Noom vortex? I'm using the Noom vortex as a encompassing term for most diet culture bullshit.
Yeah. Quite honestly, if you've had a history with disordered eating disorder, or even if you've never been actually diagnosed, but you kind of know that something's wrong, and you
disordered
feel
eating,
like
all of the above, yeah.
If you feel like you're in trouble, like if you feel like things are getting compulsive or driven, or like you can't pull out, get help, because it's really lonely and isolating. Like a lot of people that I talk to, I'm the first person they've spoken to about how they feel about their body or about what's really going on with food. It can feel scary to kind of say, I think something's going wrong here, but there's low risk things that you can do and free things that you can do. So in Australia, like the Butterfly Foundation has like a free chat kind of thing, so you can be totally anonymous. You can go on and you can talk to someone about, hey, I'm doing this Noom thing and like I feel guilty if I have a piece of pasta. Just start talking to organisations that are not connected to the weight loss industry. If you have, a health professional like that you trust, like a GP or someone like that, go and talk to them. Get help early. The earlier you get help, the easier it is to get out of the vortex.
Yeah.
We
always say like the earlier the better, because if I had gotten help so much earlier on, I don't even know if I would have even been here in terms of hosting this podcast, because I might not have even had an eating disorder. But yeah, it's one of those things where dieting and weight loss and restriction is just so hardwired in people, that people often congratulate you as well. Or they say, oh, I wish I had your willpower. Blech.
Yeah. It's heavily, that's why I'm saying go somewhere that's not connected with the weight loss industry, because the unconditional positive feedback that people get when they're falling into restriction is really confusing. And especially if you're in a larger body, and like you said, most people with disordered eating disorders are not small people. There's this stereotype, but only about 5% of people with an eating disorder are smaller bodied and visibly not well. And what you look like is no kind of indicator of how you're actually faring in terms of psychological health around disordered eating disorders. So get help. With Noom, look, my God, block, report, extract from that stuff. And like after I did the blog in 2022, it took 2 years for Noom to finally stop emailing me. Even though I'd blocked them. They're so sticky and roachy. So, and that's how they wear you down, with repetition. So whatever you can do to report and block, and that's what I mean. It's not enough to just block. You have to report in order to teach the algorithms to stay the hell away from you. But I am sure that after today's conversation, even though it's on a podcast, I'm sure my phone's listening. I'm sure I'm going to get some new stuff, because
same.
these are tech bros, and they're very good at popping
Yeah, they
up.
spend millions of dollars on things like SEO and, targeting advertising. It's so, and they like these algorithms, again, they're just so freaking smart. They learn faster than most of us in general. And whenever I see any Noom weight loss Juniper, I just got one for Juniper earlier, which is basically the same thing, and it's just basically selling you weight loss drugs now. I just report, marketers inappropriate, all that kind of
Offensive,
stuff.
a scam.
Offensive, yeah, all of the above. You were also talking about some things that you also really enjoy, like free things and other resources. What are some of your favorite things, like books, apart from the ones that you've written, obviously, which will be linked in the description below? But like one of my favorites is Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison.
Anti-Diet is terrific. Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings is like, just if you ever need a reminder that BMI is bullshit and racist and based on, slavery, and like just a sense of like how bad the body hierarchy is in terms of entrenching discrimination, it's a must read. I absolutely love that.
And so many of these are also available, as for anyone who's ADHD like me, so many of them are available on audiobook if you have Spotify Premium. So many of them are available on audiobook. I know Fearing the Black Body is, because I'm listening to it right now. Same with Christy Harrison's books, all of them, like so many.
Yeah. And
Aubrey Gordon's ones are also on there as well.
Yeah, really good. What we don't talk about when we talk about fat and maintenance phase is a great podcast. The more you saturate yourself with kind of radicalizing, pushing back against diet culture stuff, and community, finding other people who think like you, and who, have a healthy bullshit detector. Like my community of fellow anti-dieters are just necessary, because, I have lots of groups. I've just been out for breakfast with a bunch of women who are really lovely, but they're all very, very diet culture-y. And so, I spend the rest of today connecting with my anti-diet friends and, reinforcing those messages that I don't want. I don't choose that I live in diet culture where Noom is booming and Novo Nordisk are making squillions, but I can choose like not to put it, not to bring it on board and to use it to sort of fire up the protest left, right and centre as much as I can. So there's lots of things that you can do to not just like get help if you're feeling wobbly and unwell, but cultivate, cultivate this pushback, grow it. Don't be afraid to question things and to ask, is that bullshit? Probably. Just be unapologetic with this, because it's the for 20 years I've been angry about this. I'm no less angry, but I'm channeling it into things that are going to hopefully change the world. My kids, for example, they know a lot more than I did at their age about all of this kind of stuff. So hopefully less susceptible to the weight loss industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we are seeing a shift in the next generation. Unfortunately, now we've just got all of this, unfortunately with social media, it gives everyone a platform, everyone an opinion, and you've got all these stupid wellness influencers who don't know what the hell that they're doing, spouting just misinformation and disinformation, all of the above. But I do think that there is a lot more discourse and challenging what is currently pushing out against, like in the wellness culture as well. I think people are starting to look a little bit more critically. And I think as our generation, as millennials and Gen Xers, we know the damage that diet culture has done to us. And I'm really hoping that with the next generation, we will see a shift of our own thinking. I mean, we kind of already have seen it in the way that parenting styles have changed from like an authoritarian parenting to like gentle parenting and things like that, and being much more mindful of what our actions can do to the younger generation. So I'm just hoping that we see a shift in the same way in terms of the way we perceive our bodies, the way that we eat, the ways that we move our bodies, those kind of things. So I have hope. I think it would be bad if we didn't, you know. I think it's important to have hope and to keep, like you said, being proactive.
Yeah.
Diversifying our feeds, listening to, you know, even if you're listening to this and you go and follow literally one other fat person on social media, you know, someone who's working in this space, making sure that your feed isn't just a whole bunch of thin white women. It's just diversifying the kind of opinions that you're getting. I think that is also something that can be really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Learn from diverse people.
Yeah. I know that it seems like a really obvious thing to do, but history has proven we're not very good at that.
No, we're not. We fear, you know, fear different bodies, like Sabrina's book, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's keeping this kind of going, you know, the fear of the larger body.
Yeah.
And if we can get over that and say, actually, I don't need to fear that. That doesn't need to mean it's a bad thing to have larger bodies on the planet. It's liberating.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this has been such an amazing chat. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I've been wanting to pick your brain for a very long time because I'm a big fan of All Fired Up. So where can people find more of you? Where can people find your work? Where can people listen to you? This is your time to plug everything that you need to.
I'll do a shameless plug. Well,
Please.
The All Fired Up podcast is like one of my favorite things to do. I've been a little less active in that over the past year or so, but it still pops up quite unexpectedly. So subscribe if you want to have a look. I've got a newsletter. I've got a really cool PDF which is called Everything You've Been Told About Weight Loss is Bullshit, which is co-written with me and Fee Willer, and it's just, you know, there's the top 10 things that you hear floating around diet culture, you know, like weight loss is good for your health, like all the things that everyone knows. We've broken down the actual science, so it's really good. If you go to untrapped.com.au, it should pop up, or if you go to my Instagram, which is untrapped_au, you can find a link to that there. So that's really cool. And if you're on Insta, there's a whole kind of, you'll find all of my stuff. It's, you know, random and consistent with, you know, the critical lens.
That's the thing that we love, is consistency. Consistency of messaging, because I think you see that so often in wellness shit, is that they're pushing one product and then the next week, they're pushing another one, which is basically a rival product or does the complete opposite of what you said they did last week. So yeah, when brand consistency is always important.
Well, I'm a consistently annoyed brand, so that's...
Yes.
That's what
you're consistently fired up, put it that way.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all the places that you can find Louise in the show notes, so you can go there to saturate your feed with all things Louise. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I knew that I'd found the right person to match my rage with this.
It's been excellent.
Crap.
Yes.
It's been so good. Thank you so much. That's all for today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what you hear, please consider giving us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That'd be great. You can follow us on YouTube and Instagram at pavedwithgoldpod. Send us an email at pavedwithgoldpod@gmail.com or visit our website, pavedwithgoldpodcast.com. All of those links will be in the show notes along with some extra resources. And until next time, stay safe and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye. This podcast is general in nature and has not taken your personal circumstances or medical history into account. We are here to share our own experiences and the things that we have found helpful throughout our own personal recovery journeys. Please remember that each person's journey and circumstances are different, and not all of the information contained in this podcast may be relatable to you. It's important you consult your own GP or recovery team to seek out tailored advice before making any important decisions relating to your own health and recovery process. If you have found any of the content in this episode distressing, please contact your care team or a medical professional. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs help now, please contact emergency services in your region immediately.